Step away from the gate. You don't belong here.
I'm the owner of this building. You're blocking me from my own office.
Owner? In a hoodie? Last warning. Turn around.
This detention is unlawful. You have no probable cause.
The security footage from the lobby of the Sterling Tower was high definition, capturing every nuance of the Saturday morning sunlight streaming through the floor-to-ceiling glass. It captured the dust motes dancing in the air, the polished gleam of the marble floors, and the sharp, undeniable reality of what was about to happen. Officer Kyle Braddock, 28 years old and confident in the way that only a man with a badge and unchecked authority can be, had absolutely no idea that the man he was blocking from the elevators was not a delivery driver, nor a trespasser. He had no idea that the man in the charcoal gray sweatpants and hooded sweatshirt was Marcus Sterling. Marcus was 54 years old. He had built this building. He had designed the software that ran the city's traffic grid. He sat on the board of 3 major hospitals and had dined with governors. But on this particular Saturday, he wasn't wearing his bespoke Italian suit. He wasn't flanked by his usual entourage of assistants and legal counsel. He was just a black man in casual clothes holding a tablet and a travel mug of coffee, trying to get to his office on the 42nd floor to review some code before a Monday launch. Before we get into the details of this infuriating encounter, I need you to take a moment. Pause and think about how many times you've judged someone based solely on their appearance. Now go to the comments section and tell me, have you ever been stopped or questioned in a place where you had every right to be? Type yes or no and tell me your state. And if you believe that respect should be given to everyone regardless of what they are wearing, hit that subscribe button right now. This story is going to make your blood boil, and you need to see how it ends. Marcus walked toward the security turnstiles with the easy, rolling gait of a man who owns the ground he walks on. The lobby was mostly empty, save for the weekend security detail. The regular guards, men and women who had known Marcus for years, were on break or rotated out. Standing at the desk was Officer Braddock, working a supplemental off-duty shift to make extra cash for a new truck. Braddock saw Marcus enter. He didn't see a CEO. He didn't see a philanthropist. He saw a threat. He saw someone who didn't fit his mental image of who belonged in a high-tech skyscraper on a weekend. "Hey, you hold it right there." Braddock's voice echoed off the marble walls. It wasn't a question. It was a command. Marcus stopped. He didn't flinch. He simply turned his head, his expression calm, bordering on bored. He had dealt with aggressive negotiations and hostile takeovers. A rude voice in a lobby didn't rattle him. "Can I help you, officer?" Marcus asked, his voice a deep baritone, steady and polite. "Where do you think you're going?" Braddock stepped out from behind the desk. He was fit with a high and tight haircut and a uniform that was pressed a little too perfectly. His hand rested on his belt near his taser. "I'm going to my office," Marcus said simply. He turned back to the turnstile and raised his hand to swipe his biometric pass. "Step away from the gate," Braddock shouted, moving quickly to intercept him. "I said hold it. Delivery entrance is around the back. Loading dock. Read the signs." Marcus turned fully to face the officer now. He took a sip of his coffee. "I'm not a delivery driver, and I'm not using the loading dock. I'm going up to the 42nd floor. The 42nd floor is executive access only." Braddock sneered, looking Marcus up and down. He took in the sneakers' expensive limited edition, though Braddock wouldn't know that, and the plain hoodie. "And you don't look like an executive. So let's try this again. Who are you here to see? And don't lie to me because I'll toss you out for trespassing before you can blink." "I'm not here to see anyone," Marcus replied, his patience beginning to thin, though his face remained impassive. "I am here to work. My name is Marcus Sterling. If you look at the directory behind you or the bronze plaque on the wall to your right, you'll see my name." Braddock didn't look. He didn't even glance at the plaque that was 10 feet away, a plaque that literally featured a relief carving of Marcus's face from 10 years ago. I don't care what your name is, pal. I care that you're refusing to follow lawful orders. You have no ID displayed, you're trying to breach a secure area, and you're giving me attitude. Now turn around and walk out those doors or we're going to have a problem. The only problem here, officer, Marcus said, his voice dropping an octave, becoming colder, is that you are impeding the owner of this building from entering his own property based on nothing more than your perception of my attire. That is a violation of my civil rights, and frankly, it's a waste of my time. Owner? Braddock laughed. It was a harsh, barking sound. Yeah, sure. And I'm the King of England. Last chance. Walk away. Marcus didn't walk away. He knew the law. He knew his rights. And he knew that backing down now would only validate this officer's bias. He stepped toward the turnstile again. I am going to scan my pass. It will turn green. I will walk through. You will return to your post. Marcus raised his wrist. The sensor beeped. A clear, crisp green light flashed and the small screen read, Welcome, Mr. Sterling. Access granted all levels. That's a stolen pass, Braddock yelled. He didn't pause to think. He didn't consider the possibility that he was wrong. He reacted on instinct, an instinct honed by years of unchecked aggression. He lunged forward, grabbing Marcus by the shoulder of his sweatshirt and yanking him back. Don't touch me, Marcus said. He didn't shout, but the command was absolute. He pulled his arm away with a sharp, controlled movement. That's it, you're under arrest, Braddock declared. The situation had escalated from a conversation to a physical altercation in seconds. Braddock had decided that the pass had to be stolen or cloned. In his mind, there was no universe where the black man in sweatpants was the person authorized to enter the penthouse suite. At this moment, the elevator doors opened. Two members of the weekend janitorial staff, Maria and John, stepped out with their cleaning cart. They froze. They saw the owner of the building, the man who gave them Christmas bonuses every year that were larger than their monthly salaries, being manhandled by a police officer. Behind them was a junior software developer named Eric, who had come in to grab a forgotten laptop. Eric was quick. He didn't intervene physically. He was a 24-year-old coder, not a brawler, but he did something more powerful. He pulled out his phone. He started recording. Officer, Marcus said, dusting off his shoulder where Braddock had grabbed him. You are making a mistake that is going to follow you for the rest of your life. I am asking you for your own sake to look at the ID I am about to take out of my wallet. I am asking you to look at the screen on that turnstile. Stop reaching. Braddock shouted, his hand dropping to his holster. Hands where I can see them. My hands are visible, Marcus said, holding them out to his sides. I am calmly telling you that I am Marcus Sterling. Ask the staff standing right there. Braddock glanced at Maria and John. Maria looked terrified. Officer, she said, her voice shaking. That is Mr. Sterling. He owns the building. Please. Quiet, Braddock snapped at her. He probably paid you to say that. Or maybe he's dealing to you. I don't know. He turned back to Marcus. You're resisting, you're trespassing, and you're in possession of stolen security credentials. Turn around. Hands behind your back. I am not resisting, Marcus stated for the camera he could see Eric holding. I am stating for the record that I am the legal owner of this property. I have committed no crime. There is no reasonable suspicion for this detention. If you arrest me, it will be unlawful. Tell it to the judge, Braddock scoffed. He grabbed Marcus's wrist and twisted it behind his back harder than necessary. The handcuffs came out. The metallic click, click, click echoed through the silent lobby. Marcus Sterling, a man who employed 4,000 people, a man whose technology secured the city's power grid, was now handcuffed like a common criminal in his own foyer. He didn't struggle. He didn't fight. He stood tall, his posture perfect, his eyes fixed on the horizon of a future legal battlefield. You're hurting him, Eric shouted from near the elevators, the phone steady in his hand. He's the CEO. You're arresting the CEO. Back off or you're next. Braddock warned, pointing a finger at Eric. "This is an active crime scene." Braddock keyed his shoulder radio. "Dispatch, this is Unit 4 Alpha. I have one male suspect in custody at Sterling Tower. Trespassing, resisting arrest, possession of stolen property. Send a transport unit." "Copy 4 Alpha. Transport en route." Marcus took a deep breath. He felt the cold steel biting into his wrists. He felt the humiliation trying to rise up in his chest, the ancestral anger that every black man knows, but he pushed it down. He converted it into cold, hard logic. He converted it into strategy. "Officer," Marcus said softly so only Braddock could hear, "I hope you have a good union representative." "Shut up," Braddock said, pushing Marcus toward the glass doors. "You guys always have something to say. You think you can talk your way out of everything." "I don't need to talk," Marcus replied. "The video will speak for me." "What video?" Braddock looked around, spotting the security cameras in the corners of the ceiling. He smirked. "Security footage gets lost all the time, pal. Your word against mine, and I'm the one with the badge. Not just the security cameras." Marcus nodded toward Eric, who was still filming. "That one is already on the cloud." Braddock's eyes narrowed, but the transport car was pulling up. It was too late to back down now. His ego was in the driver's seat, and it was speeding toward a cliff. He shoved Marcus into the back of the patrol car. The plastic seat was hard. The cage was cramped. Marcus sat awkwardly, his hands numb behind his back. The ride to the 4th Precinct took 15 minutes. Braddock drove with the window down, whistling a country tune, feeling proud of his bust. He imagined the praise he'd get for catching a corporate thief. He imagined he'd stopped a burglary ring. He had created an entire narrative in his head to justify his bias, completely ignoring the reality screaming in his face. When they arrived at the precinct, Braddock hauled Marcus out of the car. He marched him through the back entrance, past the holding cells, and into the processing area. It was a Saturday, so the station was relatively quiet, buzzing with the low hum of routine bureaucracy. Sergeant Tom Miller was the desk sergeant on duty. Miller was 58 years old, a veteran of the force who was 2 years away from retirement. He had seen it all. He was drinking a lukewarm coffee and filling out a roster when the door opened. "Got a live one, Sarge," Braddock announced, shoving Marcus toward the booking bench. "Caught him trying to break into the Sterling Tower, using a cloned pass, belligerent, resisted." Sergeant Miller looked up over his reading glasses. He looked at Braddock, then he looked at the prisoner. Miller's coffee cup stopped halfway to his mouth. His eyes went wide. He blinked, thinking perhaps his vision was failing him. He looked closer. He recognized the face. He recognized it because 3 months ago, Marcus Sterling had donated $50,000 to the policeman's ball. Miller had shaken his hand. Miller had eaten dinner at a table paid for by this man. "Officer Braddock," Miller said, his voice trembling slightly. "Yeah, Sarge. Just need the booking sheets for trespassing and resisting." "Braddock." Miller stood up slowly, the chair scraping loudly against the floor. "Do you know who this is?" "Some guy named Marcus. Claimed he owned the place. Typical liar." Miller walked around the desk. He didn't look at Braddock. He looked at Marcus. "Mr. Sterling." "Hello, Sergeant Miller," Marcus said politely. "I apologize for the attire. I wasn't expecting to visit your precinct today." Braddock looked between them, confused. "You know this guy, Sarge. He's a perp." "Get the keys," Miller whispered. It wasn't a request. "What? Get the keys!" Miller roared, his face turning a shade of purple that frightened everyone in the room. "Get the keys and take those cuffs off him right now." "Sarge, he was trespassing." "He owns the damn building, you idiot," Miller shouted, slamming his hand on the counter. "He owns the building. He owns half the block. He used to be on the city council. You just arrested Marcus Sterling." Braddock froze. The color drained from his face. The confidence, the arrogance, the smugness. It all evaporated in an instant, replaced by a cold, sickening dread. He looked at Marcus, really looked at him for the first time. He saw the intelligence in the eyes, the calm demeanor, the way the man held himself even in handcuffs. I thought, Braddock stammered. Unlock him, Miller commanded. Now! Braddock fumbled for his keys. His hands were shaking so badly he dropped them once. He picked them up, his breath coming in short, panicked gasps. He moved behind Marcus and unlocked the cuffs. Marcus brought his hands forward. He rubbed his wrists where the red marks were already forming. He turned to look at Braddock. He didn't scream. He didn't curse. He just looked at him with a mixture of pity and disappointment. Mr. Sterling, Sergeant Miller said, rushing over. I am so sorry. I don't know what... I can't believe... It's not your fault, Sergeant, Marcus said. But I would like to speak to the watch commander, immediately. He's in his office. I'll get him. Miller literally ran toward the office at the back of the room. Braddock stood there holding his handcuffs, looking like a child who had just broken a priceless vase. Mr. Sterling, if you had known I was powerful, you would have treated me with respect, Marcus asked quietly. Is that it? But because you thought I was just a regular black man, you treated me like a criminal? Braddock opened his mouth, but no words came out. That, Marcus said, is exactly the problem. Captain Henderson, the watch commander, burst out of his office a moment later, trailing Sergeant Miller. Henderson was a stern man who ran a tight ship. When he saw Marcus Sterling rubbing his wrists in the processing area, he looked like he might have a stroke. Mr. Sterling, Henderson said, extending a hand but then pulling it back, unsure if he was even allowed to touch him. Please come into my office. Let's get you some water. Let's sort this out. I am not going into your office, Captain, Marcus said firmly. I am going to stand right here. I am going to wait for my attorney who is already on her way. And I am going to wait for you to secure the body camera footage from Officer Braddock before it mysteriously malfunctions. We will preserve everything, Henderson promised, wiping sweat from his forehead. Officer Braddock, step into my office, now. But, Captain... Now! Braddock walked into the glass-walled office. Henderson followed and slammed the door. The entire bullpen watched. They couldn't hear the words, but they didn't need to. They saw Captain Henderson, a man known for his composure, screaming. They saw him pointing at Braddock, pointing at the door, pointing at the processing area. They saw Braddock shrinking his posture, collapsing, his head hanging low. Marcus stood by the booking desk. Sergeant Miller brought him a chair, but Marcus refused to sit. He stood. He wanted them to see him standing. 20 minutes later, a woman in a sharp navy suit burst through the precinct doors. It was Elena Ross, Marcus's chief legal counsel. She looked like she was ready to burn the building down with her eyes alone. Marcus, she said, rushing to him. Are you hurt? I'm fine, Elena. Just some bruising. She spun on Sergeant Miller. I want the arrest report. I want the badge number. I want the name of the supervisor on duty. We're handling it, ma'am, Miller said, looking miserable. The captain is dealing with the officer now. Handling it? Elena laughed, a sharp, dangerous sound. You arrested Marcus Sterling for entering his own building. You haven't even begun to handle it. By Monday morning, the city attorney is going to be begging us to settle. Captain Henderson came out of the office. He looked exhausted. Mr. Sterling, you are free to go, obviously. There will be no charges. This was a grave misunderstanding. A misunderstanding is when you order the wrong lunch, Marcus said. This was an unlawful arrest based on racial profiling. This was a deprivation of rights under color of law. We will be conducting a full internal investigation, Henderson said. I'm sure you will, Marcus said. But so will the Department of Justice. Elena, let's go. Marcus walked out of the precinct the same way he walked out of his boardrooms in control. But inside he was shaking. Not from fear, but from the adrenaline of survival. The fallout was swift and brutal. By Sunday morning, Eric's video had 2 million views. The title was simple: "Cop arrests owner of Sterling Tower for being black." The comments were a landslide of outrage. "I used to work security there. Mr. Sterling is the nicest guy ever. This cop is toast. Look at how he ignores the ID. He just wanted to arrest him." This is why people don't trust the police. It's not just the violence, it's the arrogance. On Monday, Elena filed a civil rights lawsuit in federal court. It was a masterpiece of legal drafting. It accused the city, the department, and Officer Braddock individually of violating the 4th and 14th Amendments. It cited the video evidence, the witness statements, and the fact that Braddock had ignored verifiable proof of identity. But the real bombshell came 2 weeks later during the discovery phase of the lawsuit. Elena's team demanded Braddock's disciplinary records. The city tried to fight it, but a federal judge who happened to know Marcus professionally ordered them released. The records painted a disturbing picture. Braddock had 12 complaints against him in 5 years. Excessive force, rude conduct, profiling. All of them had been dismissed as unsubstantiated or resulted in verbal counseling. There was a pattern. He stopped black men in luxury cars. He stopped Latino men in high-end neighborhoods. He had a history of assuming that people of color didn't belong in affluent spaces. And for 5 years, his supervisors had looked the other way because he met his quota and showed up on time. Marcus went on national television. He sat for an interview with a major news anchor. He wore the same hoodie he had been arrested in. "Mr. Sterling," the anchor asked, "you're a billionaire. You have resources. Why pursue this lawsuit? Why not just accept the apology?" "Because," Marcus looked directly into the camera, "if they can do this to me in my own building with my name on the wall, imagine what they are doing to the teenager walking home from school. Imagine what they are doing to the mechanic driving his truck to work. I have the money to fight. They don't. I'm not fighting for me. I'm fighting for the man who doesn't have a legal team on speed dial." The investigation concluded 6 weeks later. The Internal Affairs report was scathing. It found that Officer Braddock had violated multiple policies, had lied in his initial verbal report to the sergeant, and had no probable cause for the arrest. Officer Kyle Braddock was terminated. He was stripped of his pension. The union refused to back him after the video became global news. He was too toxic. The city settled the lawsuit for $1.2 million. It was a record amount for a wrongful arrest case involving no major physical injury. Marcus took the check. He didn't keep a dime. He started the Sterling Legal Defense Initiative, a nonprofit dedicated to providing top-tier legal representation for victims of racial profiling in the city. 1 year later, Marcus stood in the lobby of Sterling Tower. It was a Saturday. The sun was streaming in, catching the dust motes just like before. He walked to the turnstile. The new security guard, a young man named David, smiled at him. "Good morning, Mr. Sterling. Working on the weekend again?" "Always David." Marcus smiled back. He swiped his pass. The light turned green. But as he walked to the elevator, Marcus paused. He looked at the spot where he had been handcuffed. The memory was still there, a ghost in the architecture. He knew that for all his money, for all his power, the world still saw him in a certain way first. The suit, the building, the billions, it was all armor. And armor can be pierced. He got into the elevator and pressed the button for the 42nd floor. As the doors closed, he caught his reflection in the polished metal. He looked older, tired, but he also looked stronger. He had won the battle, but the war was long. He had forced the system to work just this once by the sheer weight of his influence. But he knew with a heavy heart that somewhere in the city at that very moment, another Braddock was stopping another Marcus who didn't have a building with his name on it. And that was why he couldn't stop working. That was why he couldn't rest. The elevator chimed. The doors opened. Marcus stepped out into his office, ready to build the next thing, ready to fight the next fight. This story ends here, but the reality continues. We often like to think that success protects us from prejudice. We like to think that if we work hard, dress right, and speak well, we will be treated with dignity. Marcus Sterling proved that isn't always true. Bias doesn't care about your bank account. It only cares about its own narrative. But there is hope in this story. The hope lies in the camera phone held by a brave witness. The hope lies in the sergeant who did the right thing when he realized the truth. The hope lies in the fact that when we shine a light on darkness, the darkness has no choice but to flee. We have to be that light. We have to be the ones who record, who speak up, who demand better. So I have to ask you, if you saw something like this happening, would you pull out your phone? Would you speak up? It's a hard question, but an important one. Let me know in the comments below. And if you believe in a world where justice isn't just for the wealthy, but for everyone, please share this story. Hit that like button to help spread the message. Subscribe to our channel for more stories that challenge the status quo and demand accountability. Thank you for reading. Stay safe, stay vigilant, and always stand up for what's right.